Hello. Hey guys, what's up? How are you guys doing? Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Hello. Hey guys, can you hear me? I was facing some Wi-Fi issues since morning, so I'm not so sure. Awesome. Awesome. A lot of you guys are writing yes. Super cool. How is everyone doing? Hope everyone's safe in these uncertain times. Um, so yeah, thank you for taking our time to actually learn public speaking, which I feel I can share a little bit about with my experiences that I've had over the past 3 to 4 years. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for writing in. Quickly introducing myself for those who don't know. My name is Divyanshu Damani. I started out by creating content on social media on multiple topics. Studied from St. Xavier's, graduated in 2017. Studied business there. Right out of college, created content on multiple topics. Did a lot of talk shows with influencers, youth icons. Now I've co-founded the startup TagMango. Essentially, we're in the influencer space, doing bunch of stuff in the influencer marketing and influencer shoutout space. Trying out these new webinars, which essentially can help you to learn from your favorite influencers, celebrities, other individuals who can teach you while you're sitting at home, home quarantine. So we wanted to make this more productive for everyone. Along with that, my public speaking journey, I think it's important to share. I started speaking on stage in class 7 onwards in school. Started off by doing extemporary, a lot of debates. I did a lot of Model United Nations and a lot of different stuff on public speaking. Was able to, because I was able to do so many things, was able to develop my skills around public speaking itself. Right out of college, when I started out with my social media journey, a lot of different colleges, platforms, startup fests, conferences started inviting me to come and interact with their audiences. So there, my skill sets developed even further. Essentially, with that, I was able to speak on platforms like IIMs, IITs, speak with audiences of the size of from 50 to 5,000 people at a go. So have taken a few of my learnings, did a lot of public speaking workshops in my home city of Calcutta. So thought while everyone's sitting home, I can share a few of my thoughts, a few of my pointers around public speaking and how, if you're sitting at home and if you genuinely want to improve yourself on public speaking itself, how you can essentially go ahead and do that. But this, okay, all right. So essentially that. So I have divided this entire section into four parts. One is where I essentially allow you to do extempore yourself. Second is where I am sharing some tips and tricks that you can actually do while you're sitting at home, so that you can improve on your skill sets around public speaking. The third and fourth part is a little theory heavy, where I essentially tell you about how you can go about creating the right speech. What are the things that you need to keep in mind while you're creating that speech? And the fourth part is around presentation. What are the things that you need to keep in mind while you're presenting yourself on the stage, in terms of your body, in terms of your voice, and all those things. So those are a little theory heavy, but I really feel is super important when it comes to public speaking, which essentially everyone needs to keep in mind. One is that public speaking in itself, okay, it's buffering. All right. I have been facing some tech issues. All right. Let me see. Let me see if I can solve the buffering issue. Yesterday, a friend of mine was also doing an Instagram live, and his all right, it's better. Super. So essentially, I wanted to share two things around public speaking before you actually get on to improving that as a skill set. The first thing is that public speaking is an entirely acquired skill set. Essentially, that no one's born a great speaker. Everyone has who's become the best speakers of all time have essentially gone through that entire journey of acquiring that skill set on every speech that they do, at every practice session that they go for. Um, and uh, and and the more you're essentially able to create that kind of practice for yourself, the better it is overall in the longer term as an acquired skill set. So that's like the core thing around public speaking that I wanted to share. And the second thing that I want to share around public speaking is that a lot of people tell me when I speak with them offline, during college interactions, during my workshops, is that they are super nervous when they go up on stage and they're told to talk to over 50, 70 odd people essentially. Um, um, no, okay, they're super nervous when they go up on stage. I'll tell you a small story here. I did a small course in the US around public speaking, communication, by a Harvard prof. She was telling me that she essentially had written one of the she was the speech writers for the president of the United States at one point. Um, and uh, and when the president of the United States was giving that speech to the audience, and she was standing right behind me while he was giving that speech, she could actually see the president's hand shaking while he was giving that speech to the audience. The bottom line that she wanted to actually convey is that whenever and whoever goes up on stage for public speaking is nervous, be it me, be it Barack Obama, be it Donald Trump, be it Narendra Modi, there is a certain kind of nervousness that everyone has when they go up on stage. And that is absolutely all right, because I watched this on Shawn Mendes's one of Shawn Mendes's videos. That if you're nervous, that means you care. That means you want to really perform that well in terms of public speaking. So one, it's an acquired skill set. Second, if you're nervous around public speaking, it's good that you're nervous. It's definitely required for you to be nervous for you to perform at your best. So those are two things I wanted to keep in mind. Lastly, before diving deeper into the subject, I can also take questions from time to time. So keep hitting me up with questions on the side around your thoughts. I'll also keep a bunch of question answer at the end of the webinar of whatever I know. But the one last thing before I dive deeper into the subject is that the only way the only way that you can actually improve on public speaking is not by listening to me telling you how you can essentially improve your public speaking. I can give you some ideas around what you can do to fasten that process, but unless and until you don't do the hard part of actually going ahead and putting yourself out there in an uncomfortable position where you're speaking in front of 10, 20, 50, 100 odd people, then you'll not actually be able to improve. So find out any opportunity that you can, right? Not right now because things are very different right now, but when things improve, find out any opportunity that you can to essentially go out there and improve yourself and put yourself in that uncomfortable position to speak in front of 50, 100, 200, 500 people. That is the only way. That's the only hack. That's the only secret ingredient towards actually improving your public speaking. If a teacher asks the class a question that, hey, do you have an answer to that? Be the first one to try and attempt that, because you're essentially putting yourself out there. If there's an open mic, if there is an extemporary competition, if there is a debate happening in college or school or wherever you're at, be the first one who actually raises your hand and takes up that opportunity, because that's like the most important thing. And whatever I say after this will not really matter, because if you don't really put yourself out there and actually start working on yourself and start working on your skills, then you will not be able to improve yourself in that front. So like, just keep that in your head when you're starting out with it. And I think that's essentially the most important thing that I wanted to share. How do you deal with the difficult audience if they aren't paying attention? Wow, cool. I'll come to a lot of your questions. I think a lot of relevant questions are coming up. Let me just go through the entire flow, and then I'll also take up some questions too. essentially one of the first things I usually used to do when I used to do these public speaking workshops is I used to give these extemporary topics and get people to speak on any topic under the sun where they are not prepared for 2 minutes. How many of you know extemporary? What extemporary means? Send me your emoji in the comments so I know whether you know extemporary or not. Awesome. All right. Got it. So extempore. Also, if you can simultaneously. All right. Okay. So there are some people that don't know what extempore is. Extempore essentially means that you've given a topic and you've got to speak about that topic on the spot, very spontaneously. So if all right, awesome. That's a lot of. Thanks for sharing your emoji. Can you guys also write any topics that you think would be suitable for an extempore? Um, any topic, hit me up in the comments below. I'll take up one of the topic and try and show you how to really go about extempore. Why I'm telling you this, because it's one of the most effective ways to actually start thinking on your feet, and also improve yourselves and build confidence for yourself in public speaking. Pollution, climate change, social media, COVID-19, all of these are like relevant topics for an extempore. Patriotism, hobbies, super life in quarantine, coronavirus. Awesome. So multiple topics around extempore. I'll also link a particular thing below. All right, guys. Tell me about yourself. I think tell me about yourself is interesting. Whoa. All right. All right. So let me take up a very like common topic that is usually taken up. Let's say climate change. If you're put out there and you're told that you need to speak on climate change for 2 minutes, you can essentially you get 30 seconds to put your thoughts together, and after those 30 seconds you have to go. And essentially how you're thinking about it is, what do you feel about the topic genuinely, and what are some of the things, especially if you can bring in a personal story with respect to the topic, then that's the best relatability that you can do within those 2 minutes itself. So for example, when let me take climate change as an example and show you how an extempore could be done. I've read multiple articles on climate change itself, and I've seen multiple people sharing two different sides of the story around climate change altogether. We've got on one side where Donald Trump talks about that there is nothing called climate change essentially. And on the other side, there are activists like Greta Thunberg who are very vocal about climate change in itself. What I personally feel about climate change is very visible to my eyes when I go to our capital city of Delhi. In fact, I made a trip to Delhi in the month of December for a speaking engagement itself. And at that point of time, when I like landed from the airport and got into my car and was seeing right around, the kind of smog in Delhi itself that I was able to see, it was disheartening. And I felt that this essentially is one of the core reasons around because of which climate change is impacting severely for our country and the world. And if we are not taking this as a very serious thing, if you're not taking nature very seriously, and if we constantly go on exploiting the resources that nature actually provides us, then in the longer run, as we're already seeing effects of that, in the longer run, the human race is essentially doomed. So that's like very quick 2 minute or extempore where you can like throw in some thoughts, throw in a personal anecdote, think about what you essentially feel about it, and can take care, can go after an extempore topic. What I want you guys to do, I'll take questions after this particular section. What I want you guys to do is, there are tons of extempore topics that people have written down on the comment section. Thank you everyone for writing it down. The first task that I have for you guys, I will not do it live because I'm not able to give you feedback. But the first task is, pick any extempore topic from the list that your friends have shared. And try and prepare that right after the webinar gets over, and try and speak on that topic for a couple of minutes in front of a mirror, and record it on your phone. After you've recorded it, then you essentially sit down and review what you've recorded. And I think and if you can do that every day for the next 7 days, there are a lot of topics that people have written around. Then you can start seeing a constant improvement itself. So task number one that I have for you guys after this webinar is over, for the next 7 days, keep finding extemporary topics. I'll attach a list of my favorite topics as well, and prepare yourself and sit in front of a mirror and start working on yourself very extensively. So that's task number one for you guys. Let me take some questions in the meantime. Let me see. How to speak confidently without blabbering and thinking? Um, if it's extempore, the only way that you can do it is by constantly improving yourself, by constantly taking up multiple of such extempores that helps in improving your cognitive abilities. It helps you think faster. It helps you think better. Plus, having that kind of knowledge base, so reading up a lot, knowing about what's happening in the world, really helps in building that content firsthand. If it's something prepared, then I don't think anyone who's going in for something prepared should have any problem in terms of shivering or might feel nervous, because if you've got a prepared content, then you literally practice it so much that you've got it by heart, and there's no one that can stop you when it comes to that content piece. The only like bottom line to it is that if you can practice intensively of the content piece that you've created, then like that's the only way that you win the entire battle. And the practice part is not just restricted to us. People from Barack Obama to even Winston Churchill used to practice like 3 to 4 hours a day before they actually used to go out and share that speech in front of the audience, which we thought that, oh fuck, that is so good as a speech. So that's the only like bottom line in terms of what you can do in terms of practicing. So that's what you do so that you don't feel nervous or you don't stammer or stutter while you're giving out a particular while you're speaking in public. Hmm. How to put thoughts in sequence? I'll get to that in the content side of things. How to build confidence? A lot of people have. How to improve word power? Improving word power is actually, it's a constant, like everything that you do needs to have consistency. So if you want to improve word power, I'll tell you some basic things, but those things work. One of the basic things that worked really well for me and really helps me in building the right content is I read a ton of content, both online and in books. So overall, by reading, if I also did not find a particular word that I don't know essentially the meaning of, then I used to look it up in the dictionary or try and add that to my vocabulary over time. And just one more thing around word power is what I'll say. Like, you don't need to have like very strong, extravagant words per se to actually convey your points very well. One of the best speakers right now, I would say, would be Donald Trump. Donald Trump talks in such a way which every single person will be able to understand. He does not use any big words. He's straight to the point. Everyone in the audience can understand what he's saying. And he says things and puts it really hard multiple times that we're going to build a wall, we're going to build a wall, we're going to build a wall. Now it's in your head that Donald Trump's going to build a wall. So essentially, it's not about using big words when you're speaking. It's more about how clearly you can convey your point to your audience. If you are very clear with that, and the audience is able to understand everything that you're saying and understand your thought process, you've won the battle. So no big words are essentially required. However, you still want to improve it because it's a good thing to do. You can do what I said: read, read, read. What else? What helps you to be so calm and composed all the time? Believe me, even when I go on stage, I am nervous at times, and when I'm speaking in front of people, I try and prepare myself to the T. I make sure that I have prepared myself. I know my content by heart. I know what I'm talking about. And another thing that really works for me is that I really feel for what I'm talking about, like genuinely. So the passion automatically comes out. Usually, when you're talking about something that you really feel for, then automatically that comes out. Rest, it's about sticking to the content that you've already created in the practice. Believe in the practice that you've already done. Rest will be taken care of. I'll move to the other part before I take more questions. Let me yeah. This is the second part that I want to talk about, which is another hack that you can use while you're sitting back at home, which is listening to speeches and practicing speeches essentially. Like one of my favorite speeches. Also in the comment section, you can tell me what your favorite speech is. If you've come across any speeches that you really like, I'd love to check them out as well. So one of my favorite speeches I'll share with you is Obama's Democratic Convention speech. Obama basically gave this speech in 2008 before he was running in for the presidential elections. And the way the guy actually spoke about his speech and conveyed his points, it was so good that it was mind blowing. I have linked Obama's speech on the top of this particular section. You can check out his Obama's Democratic Convention speech. Also, after you check it out, look at it very, very like closely in terms of what are the things you like about Obama's speech and what are the things that you can learn from his speech around public speaking, both from a content and a presentation standpoint. So that is super helpful. Also, another thing that I want to mention is you personally taking up a lot of popular speeches and reading that up in front of the mirror helps a ton. One of the speeches again I've shared upwards is the Gettysburg Address. Anyone knows what the Gettysburg Address is? Right. Steve Jobs Harvard speech is fantastic. Greta Thunberg speech is fantastic. uh, so the Gettysburg Address is essentially something that Abraham Lincoln gave after the war against the South was won, and he was talking about how we all have to come together in order to really in the battle. I've shared the Gettysburg Addresses a link on top where you can check it out. You can even Google it. Essentially, what I want you to do is stand in front of the mirror, take the speech in front of your hand, and read it aloud while recording yourself. So that will overall help you in building the right kind of persona around your speech. And giving a speech like that is very close to acting. So you need to understand like what the thought process of the individual would be while he would be giving that particular speech, which is super important in giving that speech itself. Awesome. Let me do something. Let me take a trial of the Gettysburg Address. The first couple of paragraphs. If you want to check the Gettysburg Address speech out, it's right on top, and it's super helpful. Mark Zuckerberg's speech was also very good. Let me give that a shot. The first 6 lines of the Gettysburg Address. You guys can give me feedback in the comment section what I could have done better. The thought process for Abraham Lincoln at that point of time is that the country has come out of this massive war, and now is the time to actually unite the country under one roof. What are the things that Abraham Lincoln can essentially say, so that he especially can get everyone together? So let me try these 6 lines in front of you. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Like those are like the first 6 7 lines of that particular speech. It's better if I can stand and do it, but essentially having a voice tonality to the whole thing and taking care of that is really worthwhile. So that's about the public speaking end of things, and how you can essentially sit back at home and improve yourself by doing all these speeches. So the second task for you is record the Gettysburg Address reading and also any other speech that you really like. Try and do a speech reading on for that particular speech that you have selected, and record that, and then start reviewing what have you done good about that particular speech and what can you do better. And every 2 days, a very good habit is actually looking up speeches of leaders, of businessmen, of celebrities, of people who are really good at the craft, and getting them to ascend and learning at that point of time that what essentially is working from them for them and what am I liking in their speech altogether. So that's like task number two. Task number one, extemporary. Task number two, speech reading. Super helpful, guys. Will help you a ton. Any questions you have? I'll take some questions before I move to how do you go about building the right content for your speech? How do you approach that? And what are the things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to presenting your speech, be it around body language or around your voice? How did I develop my public speaking skill? I said that in the beginning. It was very, I mean, it's not over time, it's not overnight. From class 7 onwards, I've gotten the opportunity to actually go on stage and speak. One thing I'll share about myself, that I am the kind of guy who used to like raise my hand for every opportunity that used to come in school, be it extempore, be it public speaking, debating, MUNs. Although I had that nervousness in the beginning, which was massive, but I always had the opportunity, like the drive to take multiple opportunities. So that worked my way, and that is something 100% I'll recommend every one of you should do. In public speaking, how important is it to actually know and completely understand your speech before delivering it? Aradhana asks. Aradhana, I think it's the most important thing. Although a lot of people say that you can baffle with bullshit uh, if you don't have content, but I feel that at the end of the day, in the longer run, and whatever I've understood, is that even though you might not be the best speaker, if you've got solid content, then people are going to listen to you. And you can only like baffle with bullshit to a certain point. So knowing your content per se is like the core to actually developing the right kind of skill. So that's something super important. Going student, is this necessary? 100%. I mean, in school, guys, if you are able to develop this in school, then there is nothing better that you can do to prepare yourself for the longer haul of your life, because public speaking independently is not कि एक ही स्किल सेट है जो हम लर्न किए हैं. There are multiple skill sets that come along with public speaking. You become more confident in life overall. You get tons of exposure because you get lots of opportunities. You become more extroverted as a person, so you're able to create more opportunities for yourself in the longer run. So everything is connected. If you're in school, guys, like take it like if I'm in your position in school, I'm gonna like take every single chance to go for public speaking that I can essentially find for. How one should improve the tone quality? How can we improve tone quality of the speech, the ups and downs in the speech? That's a good question. In terms of tone quality, I think when you are, let's say, doing those extemporaries, when you are writing your own speech and speaking out loud, when you record it, listen to it very carefully and think about it from the audience's standpoint, that where am I losing interest in my own speech. At that point of time, it's time for you to either change your tonalities, either go up down depending on where you want to emphasize and what is it that you want to emphasize on. And essentially, the more you're able to review yourself and take feedback for yourself and also show it to other people and take feedback from them, the more you're going to improve yourself over time. So that's how you go about improving tone quality. Know about where you need to pause, what kind of emphasis you want to put on certain words. So all of that really works in the longer run. I'll take some more questions at the end. Let me just quickly rush through some ideas around how to build the right piece of content, and also what you should do when you are presenting yourself on stage. So these are things that you need to keep in mind. When it comes to building the right piece of content, like I'll share with you what my approach is. Usually, when anyone gets a speech or a topic that they need to write on, what people essentially do is they simply, like, अगर climate change है तो पहले वो जाके Google करेंगे climate change. अगर if it's let's say COVID-19, then the first thing people do is go ahead and write about COVID-19. Like, that's not the thing that I do at all. What I first do is, like, I sit back, I really try and understand what the topic is, and then think about what I genuinely feel about that topic. Like, if it is climate change, what I really feel about climate change, and what is it the personal, like, personally, what is it so strong that I feel about the topic that I can essentially share in the longer run with the audience. First, I go and do that and bring clarity into my own head. Once I've done that, then I look at the topic more, let's say, more objectively. I look at it that what are the different parts of this topic that I can essentially, a lot of different, like, angles to a particular topic. I note them down. What are these different kind of topics, these angles that I can touch upon, and then I narrow down that, okay, these are some of the top kind of topics that I can essentially touch upon when it comes to a certain topic, and this is what I'm going to talk about in the longer run for that topic. Once I've done all of these things, then I get down to Google and start researching that, okay, if I want to talk about the social impact of climate change, these are the things that I'm going to share. If I'm talking about the economic impact, I can Google that, okay, what has climate change led to in terms of losses for countries, nations, economies, and take that as flair, build all that research together on a single, like, piece of document, and then I sit down to write the final speech. So till now, first I create clarity, then I research. I create clarity, then I take an approach, then I research, and then I start writing the final speech in itself. That whatever I want to convey finally to the audience. So that's like the process through which I go through when it comes to writing the speech. And even in the speech final process writing, I usually divide it into three parts. There's a very strong opening that I have, then there's a body which touches upon these different angles, and then I conclude the topic in terms of what I essentially feel about the topic. A few hacks that I can share where you're essentially starting or writing a speech is, let me take these from you guys. What do you think? Some of the things that you can start your speech with, which actually grabs the attention for your audience. What are the things that some things that we can essentially do? Hit me up in the comments with your ideas, and then I'll add on some ideas of my own as well and what I've done in my past speeches. Voice. Quotations. Yes, quotations is fantastic. I use a lot of quotes to start off speeches with, popular quotes, quotes by really relevant celebrities. Thoughts or dialogues work really well. Body language is not part of content, body language is part of presentation. About my audience's niche, can definitely start with that. Can talk about, if you're talking to a set of doctors, then starting with a very relatable thing with relation to that doctors, addressing the audience well, that 100% works well. Wishing them a very strong good, like a good afternoon, a good evening, addressing each and every member of the audience in collection, that works very well. Humor is fantastic. If you can pull off humor, then, like, that's the best thing that you can essentially do when it comes to public speaking. It's tough. It's a sticky wicket. If you miss out on your humor, then it falls flat. So unless or until you're too sure that, okay, this is something you're gonna pull off, then definitely go. Hey guys, hello everyone. I think something that you can do better. interesting question that you could grab attention with. Yes, definitely. If you can start with a thought-provoking question that everyone in the audience starts thinking, "Oh my God, how do like what is the answer for that?" That essentially works very well. Quirky questions, anecdotes work very well. Personal story. Hi, I want to share a personal story. A lot around 24th December 2019. I was doing this. So those are like anything that like builds visual imagery in the minds of your audience works super well in terms of starting off your content. Asking for a volunteer, tough, but if you've got an option to do that, then 100% you can go about it. Um, so those are like very good points. Let me see if I've got any more. I think beginning with a story, using an exhibit. Um, do not begin with an apology. Just one thing. Don't say that, hey guys, sorry, I was not so prepared in terms of the speech, so I don't know how well it's going to go. It's not necessary. The audience does not need to know that. You just share in terms of what you want to share. Asking some question. I think these are fantastic points that you guys mentioned in the comments. I think then once you've given like a bang on opening to your speech, then you can get down to the flow of the content, whatever you want to, whichever angle of the topic that you want to essentially touch upon, like be it the social impact of climate change, economic impact, whatever you want to touch upon. Lastly, you can get down to closing. I can take your suggestions in terms for how can you conclude your speech. What are some of the best ways to conclude your speech? Any ideas? What are the things that you can do? Humor. Thank you. Thank you guys. That's my time. It's not a stand-up comedy act. But essentially, end with a question as well for the audience to think about. Yes, that is something that you can definitely do. Yes, Pooja, for sure. You can summarize your points. You can like go through ending with a famous quote, give a solution to the problem, giving your view on the topic. If you've talked very objectively, then give your opinion. 100%, 100%. Thank them, tell them, hope they learned something new. You can definitely do that to conclude with. You can close with I have closed multiple of my speeches with poetry. I really like doing that, or a biblical quote from the Gita, Quran, Bible, any of the famous popular religious texts. Leave with points to ponder upon. Real time experiments plus tricky end with a solution. Absolutely. I mean, ask for a call to action. Tell them you're looking forward to a response. It's climate change that, hey guys, I really want you guys to really start taking action around climate change. These are some of the small things that we can do. Blah, 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 blah. A lot of other things that essentially. So that's how I usually also put down my flow in terms of building the content. The if you've got, I'll keep all the rest of the questions to the end. Well, after I go through the presentation part of the topic, just while we're on content, and this is the third task for you guys. I want you guys to like create a 3 to 4 minute speech on a topic that is really close to your heart that you really wish to talk about. I'm not going to give you any topic per se. It's something that you can write on um, under the sun, whatever you want to talk about. Write that topic, practice that in front of a mirror for the time being. When things smoothen out, like get 10 people together, go to Toastmasters or go to an open mic and try and share that topic in front of that audience. It'll really help a lot, and it'll also help you in getting your thoughts on paper. And it's a very good like habit to also build in the longer term. So that's something that I can recommend that you guys could do. This is the third task, essentially, that I want to share with you guys. So task number one, extemporary. Task number two, speech reading, and task number three, build your own content and practice that in front of the mirror for the time being, and then in front of an audience after that. Okay. Last part to our this webinar is around shairi. You can definitely end your speech with a shairi. काफ़ी सही चलेगा शायरी के साथ अगर हम लोग स्पीच एंड करेंगे तो, especially if it's a relatable kind of an audience. Last part, I want to talk about presentation. Presenting your speeches has two parts to it. One is around body, in terms of how you present yourself physically, and second is around voice. How do you pitch your voice? What are the tonalities of the voice, and a lot of other things. Let me quickly run through like basic stuff that you already know. Well, when it comes to body, eye contact, having the right eye contact is the most important thing in terms of maintaining public speaking. What a hack that I use, because a lot of people would face nervousness to maintain eye contact with their audience, is I follow the Z rule. I usually look right above the head of the audience, and I try and look at them from a Z kind of a pattern. The audience starts thinking that I'm actually looking at them, however, I'm not, and I'm able to confidently give my speech very well. So if things become very nervous at a point of time, I really use this Z rule. Secondly, hand gestures. Yes, any other things around body, hit me up. Hand gestures, I think hand gestures, like I use a lot of hand gestures when I'm speaking in public, even in video calls like this one. It is very automatic for me. It grabs attention. Too much of it is also a problem. Someone's hand gestures that I really like and really admire is Barack Obama. So if you look up his speeches, he's got very like to the point kind of hand gestures, which is not too much and not too little, and it grabs your attention to that little much itself. So definitely hand gestures is something that you can. It also helps in like using up the entire space that you get. If you're speaking not on a podium but you can have space to walk around, then I think the more ground you cover, the better it is to in audience interaction overall. So that's something I 100% recommend as well. Do's and don'ts, like eye contact 100%, hand gestures not too much but a medium amount of hand gestures which is succinct, is I'll put it that way. Take uh, take the space that you have. Aradhna mentioned smiling a little while speaking. I think that's the most important thing that you guys can do. Let me smile a little more on this public on the live stream so that I preach what I do what I preach. But smiling is definitely one of the most important things that you can do in order to build a very strong connection, be it even in normal kind of public speaking, even in normal like interactions or in public speaking interactions. If you're smiling, it breaks the barrier with your audience to begin out with. Um, I'll come to the dry throat thing, and I'll come to confidence as well because that's another totally different topic. In terms of voice, about what you guys can do in terms of building the right voice. One, make sure that your volume is not too low or not too high, either of the two. It should be a moderate kind of pitch that you're going after, and you can't have a very monotonous tone. Monotonous is like if I'm constantly talking like this, and then let me tell you something about public speaking itself, which you will not be interested in. Monotonous is definitely not going to work. You'll have to land your speeches uh, when you want to like really emphasize on a certain point. Then you can increase the pitch on that particular point. You can go higher on it. If you and then once you've gone high, then you can go a little lower in rest of that particular audience, in rest of that particular sentence that you need to share. You can stress on certain words that you feel that are super important. For example, right now what I did is super is what I focused on, is because I thought that's an important word, so that it really shows you the importance of that focusing on the right word itself. So that's something you should definitely be focusing on. One thing a lot of people have asked me is that what do you do when you go blank on stage? There are a lot of comments on top as well. Essentially, if I go blank on stage, what I do is I repeat whatever the last point I was making. I repeat that, like the whole sentence, whatever the whole sentence is, I repeat it, showing it in a way that I'm actually repeating in terms of emphasizing the importance of that sentence. But what essentially I'm doing is I'm buying myself time and trying to remember what the next point that I wanted to make is. And usually, when I'm repeating that previous sentence, and since I've practiced my speech in a flow, it automatically tends to come to me in terms of what essentially the whole thing is all about. So that's about what I do when it comes to when I go blank on stage. Yeah, those are some things around voice, around body, really on the top of the head. What you can essentially do, I can go deeper into following webinars if you guys want, in terms of every single part of it. But essentially, that's more or less it. I can take some of your questions at this point of time. A lot of you guys are asking about what are some of the books that I can recommend. So I read a lot of nonfiction, and I feel that even in your public speaking journey, reading a lot of books will definitely help. Couple of books that I very strongly recommend, and one of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's number one. Number two, let me see. I really like. I've been reading a lot of autobiographies lately. So Richard Branson's "Losing My Virginity" is something that I recommend. Nike founder Phil Knight's book is something I recommend as well. So those are some things that I definitely recommend. How do you deal with a difficult audience? Whoa, that's a tough one. So usually when I personally get a difficult audience, I try and relate to them. I sometimes I even call them out, a tough audience, especially a couple of people, by saying that, for example, by saying that, hey guys, I know it's you can act as cool as you want by sitting in the audience and trying to make jokes about or make fun of any speaker who comes up on stage. That's easily like that. I know that is the toughest thing to do. But I'd really want that if you can come and share your thoughts on the topic, then it will be really helpful for the whole audience at large. So those are some things that I do. Or I can play it a little softball. It's like, um, I myself have gone through the whole journey. I've been a college student, I've been a school student, and I have been guilty of doing the same things that you've been doing for a speaker that comes on stage. I request you that I have some points to share that you will potentially like. If you want to listen, and if you like my thoughts, then we can definitely continue this. And would really love that if we can have a very constructive conversation around the topic, which is helpful for you and for me. So something like that really can help you. Depends. You can go either hardball or you can go softball. Both work. How to grab the attention of the audience in the beginning? So one hack that I do is I do a lot of audience engaging activities. I make them clap, I make them click, I make them shout something, I make them ask a question, answer a question. Things like that really work. Really gets the whole audience's attention. So those are things that 100% works. Ending the speech with a fitting Bollywood quote, that's usually what I do. Deepak is a great speaker. Deepak's mentioned ending the speech with a good Bollywood quote 100% works. छोटी छोटी देशों में बड़ी बड़ी like बड़ी बड़ी देशों में छोटी छोटी बातें होते रहती है. Things like that work super well if the audience can relate. What else? Any other? How do you tackle someone? Like I said, call them out. Tell them that, hey, if you want to leave, more than happy that you can leave the auditorium, leave the space, because we really want to have a constructive conversation around the topic. We think that it's more valuable to our time overall. And if you come from a place of confidence, then essentially you're going to win that battle. It needs to come from a place of confidence. If you start stuttering while summoning, like stammering while saying that, then you're pretty much gone. So, and when it comes to confidence, guys, one last thing, the most important thing, which is practice, practice, practice. Put yourself out there. I've given you 3 tasks. Try and do those 3 tasks. It'll be super helpful. Thank you, everyone who's stuck along for this long. Thank you for all those questions that you've asked. I think it's super, super insightful even for me. This was something new what I have also done. It's good that I can teach I can teach public speaking sitting in my track pants. It's a much more exciting kind of a proposition. Hope everyone's safe at home. um, how to improve accent over time. If you keep speaking a lot and you keep recording and you keep finding out what's essentially weird about your accent, and you focus more on less on the accent, more on the voice, more on the tonality, more on the pitch, then the accent will automatically improve over time because you've been speaking so much. And one last question I'll take: do we need to be have an extremely good vocabulary to become a good speaker? Not at all. The more simple your speech is, the better it is. Believe me, guys, the best speeches are the ones that everyone's able to understand. The best speakers are the ones who are able to most clearly like tell their audience, whoever, or communicate to their audience whatever is in their mind. So vocabulary is not that important. It's a good it's a good skill set to have for sure. But vocabulary per se is not the bottom line in terms of writing the right speech or giving the right content. Huh. Anything super? I hope this was helpful for a lot of you guys. Tell me if you want more of such things. I have something for you that if you can essentially put in this feedback form that we have for you guys. This is the first time we're doing a webinar. We're thinking of doing more webinars around multiple passions by getting your favorite kind of influencers, celebrities, individuals who are very strong with that particular profession to come and teach it. What do you think about that? Let me share just a second. Also, any other questions, thoughts, more such videos? I'll come up with more videos very soon. I know a lot of you guys who've been following me for quite some time have seen me inactive on social. I've been focusing on building my startup. There are a lot of good things happening in my life. I'm very happy to share that. I think I'll possibly even go live on my social media very soon. Super excited to share what all has been going on in my life. Have been able to progress a lot as an individual and have grown a lot since the time I was the guy who was just creating content pieces. More focused around like reaching out to and providing more value to a larger number of people across the world. Hopefully on like working really hard towards doing that as well. I really like everyone's supports. Everyone, you guys are like awesome. Thank you so much. I've shared a feedback form. If you guys can like fill that in, that'll be super helpful for us to like build more kind of such sessions. Also, another thing, at 6 o'clock we have a dance webinar that's coming up, who's been taken by a good friend of mine, who's teaching dance since I think the last 15 years or so. Right from the time he was a very similar story like the ones I have in public speaking, he's got in dancing. So definitely you can check that out. Please fill in that feedback form. It's right there. Let me see if I can pin it to top. No, I can't. It's under TagMango. Everyone stay safe. Make sure that you take care of yourself and your family. Happy quarantine, and make sure that you're more productive during this quarantine season. Is there any last question? Is there any technique to improve my body language? Yes, there is. When you're speaking in front of the mirror, look at how you're speaking. In fact, record yourself, record a video of yourself, and see what how you're essentially talking about. Having your straight back, making sure that it's a confident posture. You're comfortable in your own body, and you don't like come across as too rigid. These are like basic things. Come across as confident and well prepared. So it should be presentable, is how I'm gonna put it. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. This was helpful. I think I need some water. I'll see you guys very soon. Fill in the feedback form. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Bye bye.